talk about boundaries today. And I actually talked about this previously on my other channel, Blooming Feminine Academy. However, I feel that this is a very important topic because many people actually struggle with it. And I feel that in this channel, people might be able to benefit from this as well. So, boundaries are such a very important aspect in relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but actually in our daily life relationships. But there is often this difficulty in implementing, either because many people they are afraid that it might affect the relationship. So, for example, people might pull away and then they feel abandoned when they do so. Or then they might not really know how to communicate in a way that can help them succeed. Or they might even communicate in ways that are really not so effective at all. So, for example, there is this common way of when someone does something. Many people, what they would do is like, hey, you cannot do this to me, you shouldn't do this, etc. You hurt my feelings. And this way is actually not a really good way, because when we try so hard to convince someone, when we try so hard to show them why they have to respect your boundaries, now they are really having more resistance to it. And many people, what happens is that they either resist it, like, hey, it's not my fault, it's etc. I didn't mean it this way, or you shouldn't feel this way, it's not a big deal. Or they might like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry about it, but then they actually dismiss it later. Or because, many people, what happens is that because they don't feel this sense of urgency within themselves to change something, they actually subconsciously feel that, oh, okay, but this situation is still working for me, and doing this change might take too much energy from me. And then they just continue with it. And for example, this is very common in workplaces where the boss actually kind of know or at least heard their employees complaining about a certain situation, but then they never really change because they don't feel like they really need to, because the situation works for them. And this often happens in a subconscious manner, so that people are not really ill-intended, but because they are like really focused on other things, so that they don't really pay enough attention. They are not really present or fully aware of the real impact of your needs not being met. So, chasing other people also creates this feeling that, for example, if someone is coming at us saying that we should do this or not do that, and etc., with this harsh energy, some people might even feel rebellious against it. And for example, I am kind of rebellious. Like if someone communicates in a way that doesn't feel good to me, and I feel like they are not really, being considerate of me even, I actually would rebel against it. And so, how can we actually implement boundaries in an efficient way? Is that instead of focusing on what the other person should or should not do, we focus on what we decide to do when our boundaries are crossed. So, very simple. When someone, for example, says something hurtful, let's say that they love joking around, but then once they joked at your expense, and it was something simple, but you didn't like it because you felt it was inconsiderate, you can tell the other person, like when you guys are alone, saying, hey, by the way, I didn't really appreciate it, and because it made me feel like this, etc. And if the person chooses to do it again next time, you simply pull yourself away, because energetically, you don't want to be available for this kind of situations anymore where you are not really respected, where the other person is not considerate. So what happens is that now the person can see the impact of what they have done, which is if they are not respecting you, they don't get to experience your energy, your presence. For example, I had this situation some time ago with some relatives of mine that they wanted to celebrate a situation. And what happened was that at that time I had some dietary restrictions and they knew about it. However, because they didn't take it too seriously and they thought that, okay, maybe Monica can make an exception for this celebration, they actually chose a restaurant that exactly served the kind of food, the only kind of food that I wouldn't eat at that time. And the alternative were salad. But because I felt like, okay, I could accept it and just eat salad, but then I would resent the situation because I felt that they wouldn't have considered my needs. So what happens is that because I don't want to be in resentment, so I don't want to expose myself in this situation. So I just told them simply like, hey, thank you for the invitation and it seems really good. However, because I cannot eat this kind of food, I won't be able to go, but you guys enjoy. And this way of implementing boundaries is actually much cleaner because instead of chasing other people, like, hey, you should have considered my needs, you should have considered my options, and then it creates defensiveness in other people because now their nervous system is actually triggered by the potential conflict. Now, what I do is that, hey, this is not for me, unfortunately. Now I pull away, which is my own boundary. And now I give them the choice of, okay, if I want Monica to join us, then I need to accommodate her needs as well, just like with everyone else. So this is what happened, was that they ended up considering my needs as well. And they ended up choosing a restaurant that also accommodates my dietary needs. And then at the end of the day, everyone was happy. So I didn't need to, repress myself and then resent the situation later, which actually can build up, resentment can build up in relationships. And then one day I just snap, or maybe I just, become passive aggressive with them. And they also, because I allowed them to have the choice, then they chose it without feeling that I forced them to. So this is a cleaner way to implement boundaries, that if you learn how to apply it in different situations in life, you will feel that there is more satisfaction. And at the end of the day, people might also respect you more and not take you for granted because they don't have to, they know what are your boundaries and you demonstrate it in a clean way that is not forceful nor hurtful. Now they feel that, okay, I need to come correct, or I need to considerate Monica, so that if I want to experience her presence and energy, I need to not take her for granted. So my name is Monica, and I hope that this video can help you understand better how to implement healthier boundaries that, take less effort also, because when you have to convince the other person, when you have to chase after them and explain 1,000 times, not only would you get resentful, but you would also get drained, you also get tired with it, right? So if you also want to share what is your experience with boundaries in your life, and maybe also you might want to ask me questions like, oh, how can I actually handle this particular situation? Feel free to drop in a comment in the comment section. And yeah, let's stay tuned.